funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karas.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karas' Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karas. I know this is like, what's going on? Who is that? It's me. Usually my podcast is just audio and I take a photo with my guest and I post that up, but we are in the midst of Corona-ization, and this is our new world, which I got to tell you, I'm a little afraid we're not going to go back to the old world because people are going to find this more efficient or cheaper. You know, everything is about cost effective. I get it. I used to be a CPA. I get the whole thing. But there is nothing like human interaction. And I love when people come into the studio and we could talk one-on-one. But anyway, I was doing a couple of shows just via my phone. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna turn the voice text on here just in case I screwed something up, which I don't think I did, because I'm not that bad technically, but you know, you never know. You never know. And I posted this on Facebook. I can't even find the voice. Oh, here. I posted this on Facebook that if you think that all the technical stuff is bad now, wait till we go into Mercury in retrograde. And for you non-believers, trust me, you'll see it, okay? Anyway, I'm very excited about our guest. She is incredibly busy, appointments with clients galore. She is somebody that I met through a prior guest, and we had an email introduction, so this is the first time we are meeting really and talking other than email and trying to get together. She is the founder and CEO of the and you can correct me because I want to make sure I get this right. Ayurvedic? Did I say it right? I know what it is. Ayurvedic?
Yeah, it's, well, you pronounce the Y, so it's Ayurvedic.
Ayurvedic. I know this word, but I never get it right. She's a Reiki master, a nutritionist, I would say an overall wellness expert, and she wrote a book which is I'm so excited about, called the Five Archetypes, right here, Five Archetypes, and she is going to tell us all about it. It tells you who you are, but we're all a mixture of all these different things, and it just is going to help us navigate not only through pre-corona life, in corona life, but then post-corona life, when this is just in the history books. And I hope that's in August. So without further ado, please welcome my beautiful guest, Carrie Davidson.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm so excited to be here today with you specifically, because I feel like, well, I've seen your scores, so I know that we're so much alike. We're going to have a great time.
Right, so I took the evaluation as to what type I am. So, it's so funny because although I'm a stand-up comedian, I'm like kooky private in some ways, you know, but I don't know, this came to me, there was nothing bad on it anyway. It wasn't like you were asking me some deep, dark secret, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to take this. And I was like, I was so curious to see, was I wood, fire, earth, metal, water? These are all the different elements and types. But anyway, before we get into the book and into that, I just want to know a little bit about you. Where are you from, and how'd you get into all this, and anything health and wellness. I am a huge proponent. Anything holistic. I've been talking about the word holistic for decades. Okay, when it was like still a very weird thing. And more and more now, of course, thank God, you know, obviously the internet and social media, and you know, it's opened things up about health and wellness. But if this coronavirus does not drive home the point that we have to take care of ourselves, our body, our mind, our soul, then there's no hope. That's it.
Mhm.
If you don't think that you need to nourish yourself well, that doesn't mean, that you can never have a piece of cake because we need to live and be happy.
Yeah.
Or find ways to just to detox, exercise, all of that stuff. Then again, I don't know. Then there's no hope. So tell us how you got into this. Where are you from, by the way? Like, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm sure you can hear the twang.
What? Only now you just said very little, though. Very little. You have a nondescript accent.
I worked so hard on that.
Yeah.
Because I came up to New York for college, and everyone in my dorm was asking me to repeat words, or can I hear you say y'all? And I got kind of tired of it. And so I worked really hard to say things like really, and to even say my name, Carrie, because I was Carrie growing up. So.
Right.
So yeah. So I grew up in Memphis. I came to New York for college.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Yeshiva University, the girls' school for Yeshiva University. I was a very Orthodox girl.
Mm-hmm. In Memphis.
In Memphis, I swear. Everyone questions that. They're like, what? But yeah, we had, and we still do in Memphis, a pretty large Orthodox Jewish community.
Wow.
Which is, yeah.
Yes, we've learned something in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, who knew that? That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And did you keep
know.
kosher? Were your Jewish family kosher? And
yeah, we were kosher. I remember when I was a kid, there was no place to get kosher meat in Memphis. And so there was this one family who organized a shipment with this freezer truck once or twice a month. And you would go to her house, and on her front lawn would be stacks of like each family's orders. And so we would go, and we had to have 2 freezers because we had to hold the meat. We only got deliveries once or twice a month. I mean, it was quite an interesting time. And so I wanted to come to New York for college, and my parents said, fine, but you can only go to this Orthodox Jewish school. And for me, that was fine. I could still come to New York, and our dorm was on 34th Street. And this was 1990. And I got my first bank account, and the ATM was right down the street. And in this indoor ATM were these little business cards for the Limelight. Do you remember the club, the Limelight?
Oh, okay. So I'm married, but
yeah.
But I just had like some fun flashbacks right now.
I know.
Like when I used to have fun, Yes. Oh my God, I loved that place. I think they got.
I know.
And I think it was for drugs or something. I think something bad happened. It was a church. It was a former church, and they turned it into a nightclub. I mean, that was also the days where like. Night clubbing. It was like real nightclub. Like now, I don't even know. Now, like places in hotels, like rooftops in hotels or nightclubs. I'm like, no, that's a rooftop in a hotel.
Right.
So
not the same.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry. I went down memory lane. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So here I was, an 18-year-old from Memphis, Tennessee. I was wearing stonewashed mom jeans, Keds or tree-torn sneakers, and some like little t-shirt. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to try this. So I went back to my dorm, got my roommate from Pittsburgh. The 2 of us in our mom jeans, we go to the Limelight. And it was quite an education. I think we only went once. But yeah, so I came to New York, and I stayed in that school for a year, ended up wanting to go into film and television production, transferred to Queens College, and ended up loving film and television production, but not getting a job in it. When I graduated, I got married when I was 20 in an Orthodox Jewish marriage, and we moved to Manhattan because he was accepted to Columbia Law School, and I got a job at Columbia because I heard that they gave a tuition exemption for spouses. So the first job I got offered was in human resources. Never heard of human resources, but I figured it gives me this tuition exemption, I'll try it. And I ended up loving it because I loved the people component. I loved being able to be the place where people came to ask questions or ask for advice or confide in us about what was going on. And I started to see this theme happen over the course of the years I was there. I after 3 years, moved up to the head of HR for Columbia College for the undergraduate school. So I was getting a lot of people coming to me with problems. But this theme that emerged was around disengagement, engagement issues, people being unhappy. And it was basically because of communication breakdown and relationship issues. Mm-hmm. Where people would feel cruddy about something going on at work, and then they would stop communicating. And then the relationships would start to fracture because nobody's talking to each other. They're just having shitty feelings and sitting in that space. And so what happens? We get high turnover. We get, people not showing up. We get people arguing, and it just wasn't great. And I wanted to figure.
So you've met my family is basically.
Ah.
Come on. We call that Easter. We call that Greek Easter. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We can use you.
Oh man. So yeah, so my first career was all in this this people place, trying to decipher why we weren't getting along and how it impacted the workplace and productivity. And so I dug into that a little bit, and I was able to understand some of this and create some programming around making it better, but it was all one size fits all. It was what we had access to. I was maybe I was 30, I was a little under 30. I was kind of young and going with what was available at the time. I had, at that point, when I was 30, I had my third kid. And after a couple of years of working full-time with 3 kids, I decided I needed a little bit of a break. Mm-hmm. So I stopped working at Columbia. And after about 2 weeks, I felt like I didn't want to stay home. So I'm that was a nice stretch of staying home.
You went against the whole Orthodox grain there. I
know.
Everything so far that you're telling me is not from being from Memphis on, so, very interesting. You're so far, that your whole path is different.
Yeah, I'm definitely not normal.
whatever that is, but right. But yeah. Sort of like the checklist,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely outside of the checklist. And yeah, so I needed to go back to work. I started running nonprofit organizations for at-risk youth, usually in the arts, and found myself unhappy in my marriage. After a few years, we ended up getting divorced, and I had to go back to work for real and get paid. So I went back to Columbia, but this time at the hospital, and I was running a nonprofit for at-risk youth. We did art therapy for kids. And in that space, I started to see our healthcare model, kind of how it works, what we focus on, what we don't focus on. And I also came clear about what was different about me. I've always been different, never really understood why I was so outside the box. But what started to happen is I realized that I kind of have a broader spectrum of information that's accessible to me about people and things and situations. I'm pretty intuitive. I have a quick gut feeling about things that I realized that not a lot of people have, and I didn't quite know how to talk about it. You could probably tell, I'm not sure how to talk about it. I just get these really clear intuitive hits, and I use them to help people. But I usually don't say that it's, I have a feeling. I usually kind of lead with a question. So how's your digestion? But go ahead.
No, because I believe that everybody has that. It's a matter of how much awareness you have of that. First of all, if you believe in that, number one. And people like to say, sixth sense, gut instinct, and that's fine. But we all, if we really open ourselves up, you can sort of, see or feel it. But you got to be really, in touch. I'm just taking a guess. I would imagine women are a little bit more like this, obviously, I think than men are, for the most part, at least, our generation of men. But so I love that. And I think when you do that, the type of work that you do, especially, you have to have that, and so that's great.
Yeah.
But you knew that immediately, which is really good. Really, really good.
Yeah. And coming from an Orthodox, community, I was taught in school, we can't read our horoscope. We can't, all of those things were not available to us, that your connection to the divine or to spirituality is through God. It's a very personal connection, you and God. It's about prayer. It's clear. It's very, spelled out for you, and don't veer from it. And I was always the kid who was coloring outside the lines, breaking the rules. I didn't understand. I didn't want to do it that way. Why couldn't I do it my way? so here I was with this connection that wasn't framed in a prayer or a structure. And so, yeah, I do think that we all have access. I also think that we have judgments around it. Some people think it's just wishy-washy and it's not logical, and so don't go there. There are rules around it. But you and I actually, we'll get into our scores eventually, but we have similar scores. So I'm willing to bet you have, you get these intuitive hits too. But I never knew kind of what to do with these things. And over time, it started to become, and this is something I don't talk about that often, but it started to become clear to me why people got stuck in certain behaviors. So back to at Columbia in HR, the whole communication breakdown, where we'd have an uncomfortable feeling and then we'd react in a fixed mindset, digging our heels in. I'm right, they're wrong, I'm a victim. And so everyone steps back, and I could kind of get an intuitive feel for what that was about, what motivates that, what's the root of that, and what could maybe shift for a person to help them be softer, to open up to the idea of compassion and empathy, which leads to problem solving in a very heart-centered way. But I didn't have the vocabulary around it. I just had a feeling, and I felt like no one's going to listen to my feeling. And so I started to study holistic health practices. This was for me less than 10 years ago. Maybe it was 8 years ago. And my whole mind, body, spirit was my rabbi, antibiotics, and Xanax. And that was it. I mean, I ate fish sticks and chicken nuggets with my kids and mac and cheese. So I am very new to the holistic health space, but I just felt that there was something more, something broader. And in looking deeper into what was out there, I looked at the history of our medical model, and I looked at Ayurvedic medicine that comes out of India, Chinese medicine, that are systems models, that everything is in relation to something else. Like, you're not going to have a thought without a physical impact, and you're not going to have a stomach ache without an emotion. And all of this impacts your spiritual well-being. And to separate it out, I think, does a disservice, but that's kind of what our Western medical model does. And so while that's really good in some cases, it's also really important to understand these relationships. So that's how I started to look into these more Eastern models. And I started my own center 6 years ago to be a home for healing that was all-encompassing, was a one-stop shop where you could really focus on all these relationships and understand the core of who you are, why you think the way you think, what motivates you, what's at the root of manifesting unpleasant emotions or patterns of behaviors that are not so healthy, and then implementing mind, body, and spirit practices to help you come back into center, because everyone needs something different. We talk about meditation and it's all over the press, how great it is, But if you say it's important for everyone or it's the only way, you're actually causing harm to like 40 to 60% of the population, according to the 5 archetypes. Because we all, yes, we need a meditative experience regularly, but it has to fit the way you learn and the way you grow, or it will cause harm and pain, actually.
So when you decided to take this route, now you had a mentor, right? There's somebody, because you mentioned in the book,
Yeah.
Someone that had a real impact. So I love this story so far, because it's very evolutionary, and you really need to have life experience like you have to get to where you are. This isn't something that somebody gets out of school and all of a sudden they become an expert. I'm not saying that they can't study this, and hopefully things like this will be more open in traditional education and traditional college and postgraduate programs. But you also need life experience. You became a mom, you became a wife, you got divorced, you also bring that to the table as well. And I think that it's good too, because we are all individuals and there is no one size fits all. Just taking an example of a medicine, even let's take what's going on now. They've talked about, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, hydrochloride.
Right.
Okay. Some people, it worked. I've seen them interviewed. It's worked. It's like, they gave me this, they gave me that, and I felt so much better. Some people had a very adverse reaction. So it's and that's any medicine, Yeah. So it's this sort of the same. It's the same thing, and we're a machine, and we need different things to function. So I really admire the fact that you recognized all this and were ready to sort of, put it all together with your gift, your intuitive gift. I mean, that's a gift. So yeah, that's great. But tell us about your mentor, because that seemed to be when the tide turned for you.
Yeah. I met Dr. Stephen Cowan at a nonprofit I was heading up just before I opened my center, and we were starting a program for families called Mindful Families. And he was on the committee of developers and teachers. And in this room of like 10 people, he stood out to me. There was something really special and beautiful about this human. And I thought, I need to know him. I need to know what he's doing. I need him to be part of my community. And I was right. He is an integrative developmental pediatrician. And he believes that there is no one size fits all. He studied medicine, but then was really drawn to Chinese medicine later on in his practice. And he started to see exactly how beautifully personalized this method is, and that he could understand a child for his or her particular needs and fears and goals, and could even map out parent-child relationships so that the child's home life could be more compassionate and conducive to the growth of that child and what he or she needed. And probably, 4 or 5 years after we initially met, I started my center, and he called me up one day and he said, Carrie, the building that we're in on 57th Street is getting knocked down. I got 1 month to find a new place to practice. And I'm like, come here. So he did. So he practices at Tournesol, and it's been lovely. And soon after he joined us, I asked him if he would be open to starting a nonprofit for kids together and making his method available to kids around the world, regardless of their parents' ability to pay. And his eyes sparkled. He was like, yes. So we started this nonprofit together more than 4 years ago. And I started to learn from him about the 5 Archetypes method, and the, exactly how to apply it with kids. And teachers and classrooms and families. But then I started to realize that this is a method for human growth and development through challenge. We all have challenges. Like, just because I reached the age of 30 or so doesn't mean I don't suffer every day. And so I actually started using these techniques and this level of understanding in my everyday. And then I started using it with my clients and seeing their eyes pop and their lives change. And then I kind of started to go back into HR. And I started to go back into companies and say, hey, these problems could be solved with something that's ancient but kind of new, because no one's doing it. And it's been absolutely fascinating watching companies shift, employees enjoy their time better, be more effective, communication breakdown just like come back together very quickly. And but yeah, he continues to be my mentor. I will frequently have all right, what about this one? What about this case? Because this is whacked. And he'll help me like calm down and see it super clearly. He helps me with my own life, with my own kids, with my clients, and he wrote the foreword to my book and inspired me to study this method and apply it across the board. It's just awesome.
Now, does Tournesol, does that stand for something? What does that mean?
Yeah. So Tournesol is French for sunflower. And 10 years ago, I was about a year into a divorce, and all 3 of my kids were going to sleepaway camp. So I had my very first stretch of time all by myself since I was 20. And I decided to go on a bike trip by myself to the south of France. I just got on a plane, flew to Nice, spent a few days on the beach, and then took a train up to this tiny town called Chateau d'Ouble, and started a week-long bike. And I went town to town, and I got lost every fucking day, cried every day, got off my bike, journaled about how I'm gonna die, and whoever finds this, make sure my kids knew I loved them. But I found my way.
In the journal, you take out because I have to tell you, I'm sorry to aside, my big fear about this whole Corona thing is that if I do get sick, God forbid, they're going to find my journals. And I've written stuff about people. I don't want, but you know what? It just serves them right. They should. They should now. I take that back. Anyway, go ahead. And that's, by the way, that like running, isn't that like a wood? No. Is that like an earth type? Isn't that like to pack your, I saw something like to pack your bags and show up at, with your luggage at the airport.
Oh, that's wood. Adventurous.
Adventurous, yeah.
Yeah, that was the wood in me. I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of town. That was wood. Sorry. You said I could.
No, I love it. No, please. We encourage it, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went to the south of France, and while I was down there, I saw these rolling fields of sunflowers. It was July, and everything was in bloom, and they're massive. And the coolest thing is that they're all facing the same direction. I mean, what kind of field do you have where every flower is facing the same direction? And I noticed that they kind of shift throughout the day, all in unison. And so I asked someone, how do you say sunflower in French? And he said, with a beautiful French accent that I will butcher, Tournesol. and it literally translates into turn to the sun. Tour is turn and sol is sun. And so this time I got off my bike and cried like hell and wrote in my journal that this had to be a metaphor for my personal healing journey. I had to keep my face up. No matter what, I had to face the light. There's no choice to keep looking at the darkness and negative self-talk. No one will ever love me. Who's gonna love a woman who's got 3 kids? I'll never have a life again. How old was I? I was like 38. I'm like, my life is over, right?
But at that time, that's how you feel. I mean,
yeah. I really did. I really did. So I remember by the time I was back and figuring out my life, and I was gonna open up this center. It was like 3.5 years later, I was trying to come up with a name, and I didn't want it to be something simple or something that anyone could pick, I was thinking, all right, what do I want people to feel when they leave? I want people to feel hopeful. I want them to feel like they have hope, they have skills, they can do something for themselves. And so the word Tournesol came back to me in that moment of like, well, that was my metaphor. You know, that was what I was thinking for me. I needed to remember to keep my head up. And so I chose Tournesol, and I had some friends who were like, "You're crazy. No one can spell it. You spell it all the time." And so I was like, "No, it's sweet." And sure enough, it's very sweet, and the story's great. I hardly ever tell it, but I do spend a ton of time spelling it. You know, like Tour. So I don't know. I still feel good about it. It's fun.
No, I think first, I love that. I think that's you. First of all, it was your intuitiveness that made you think of it. You know, it's all part of the whole program and all of what you're about. And I love like what you said. We all want to have a sense of purpose. It's important for everybody to have a sense of purpose. And again, you know, now we talk about the delivery people, the person that's working at Whole Foods, who prior to this you might have dismissed as just a clerk, someone making minimum wage. You know, we put a lot of weight on money. Not that I don't love money, but you know what I'm saying. You know, you got to get your priorities straight in life. And when 9/11 happened, which of course, I've lived in New York my entire life. I'm a native New Yorker, and I actually had worked downtown when it all happened. But I remember thinking that everybody's job meant something, and I shouldn't be such a snob. And you know, again, everybody has a purpose, and if that's what they want to do, they want to work at Walmart. Who am I to say? I mean, when did I write the rule book? You know, or you know, or anybody. So again, and then years go by, and you forget, and you kind of fall back in sometimes into your old habits. And here we are again in a different situation, but a scary situation, and we are so appreciative of all of these people that are doing these, you know, less than $40,000 a year jobs. I'm just, you know, pulling out a number, but look at how important their purpose is. So it doesn't matter if you're, I mean, the people that are cleaning the hospital hallways, how great are they? So, okay, they don't have a PhD. Well, what does that mean? I mean, what is that? They're performing something that's really, really important right now. So, and I hope this time, though, it really sticks, you know?
I know.
We don't sort of forget it for too long. But what you wanted to create was for people to feel like they're here. You know, we're all here for something, a message, to help other people. You know, we talk about seasons. We talk about, you know, listen, people, and I'm going to say something, and you have to have lived a few years to kind of get this. So this might not apply if you're in your 20s, but you know, you're going to go through friendships or relationships. I mean, I married. It's my first, and it'll be my last marriage. But had I married any of the people that I had long-term relationships with, absolutely, I would have been divorced twice. No question about it. And I know I wouldn't have, you know, I would have come to a point where it's like, I got to get out of here. This is horrible. So I get it. But my point was that, you know, just friendships also. I had a childhood friendship that ended about 8 years ago. I was very upset. It wasn't even like we had a blow up. It was a weird thing. And it took me a while because I mean, as somebody I knew since I'm 16. But I finally came to the realization that and other relationships before that, and again, and even these romantic relationships, that they were there for a reason, even if at that point I was obsessed about this guy or that guy. You know, it was and it was a purpose, And again, living in a sense of awareness. And it also helps you too, like, don't beat yourself up. You had your marriage didn't work out for whatever the reason is. And of course, nobody gets married because they want to get divorced. I mean, then you really know. But, we all don't start, nobody starts out that way, but things evolve. People change, things change, circumstances change. And you try to work through it, of course, and especially in a marriage, because it's it's the commitment of all commitments. But sometimes you can't. So, but there's a reason. And you hear a lot of people say, especially people that are divorced and they have kids, but I have my kids, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, you have your kids. So that's great that you wanted to do that, and you wanted to bring that in with everything else. So you develop this center. I love the name, by the way, and I was able to pronounce it. I just wanted to make sure I pronounced it right. I love the story behind it. I think that is perfect. Perfect. So tell us. So you've evolved. I want to get into the 5 archetypes and everything that you've got in this great book and how it can help us now. So let's start with where the foundation of all this is, and how you came about sort of like analyzing the archetypes and using it as a tool.
Yeah. So the 5 archetypes is founded in the philosophy behind Chinese medicine. And according to Chinese medicine, we all have these 5 elements that that are in our nature, that are kind of forces that we call upon to help us become resilient in the face of any challenge. And so they help us define and understand human development, from child development all the way through dealing with not understanding your purpose, through understanding why relationships break down and how to keep them whole if they are meant to be whole, to deciding what job to take, to deciding, whether or not to exercise and what type of exercise you need. It's a whole system for mind, body, spirit balance that you can pull upon to help you live, throughout your lifetime. And so each of us has these 5. They are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. We have one that's primary, one that kind of guides the way we interact with our internal environment and our external environment. This one way defines our strengths and our challenges, our motivations, our fears, what we will avoid like the plague, and what we become addicted to, and will also define exactly what we need in order to heal and feel whole, because we all need something different based on our strongest, and actually with keeping in mind our lowest element within us. And it's highly unlikely to change throughout our lifetime, that primary. The others will fluctuate based on the lessons learned, based on life experiences, based on the context of the moment sometimes. They just help us understand where we are within this whole framework of resilience, and what we need to beef up in order to feel more resistant to stress in the moment.
And that's very important. It's really it's obviously a self-analysis, but you're the person you're with the most is you. And it is important to know what will trigger, for lack of a better word. And I know, not just only for myself, but for other people that I've seen, being related to, been in relationships with, or whatever, you can, when they're not sort of in tune with themselves, which I know sounds cool. Like, of course I know myself. I know you know yourself, but it's like really knowing yourself, and really like a problem comes and how you're going to react. I have to tell you, a book that changed me was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and also The New Earth, and just learning about the ego, which like, of course I know about the ego. Like, that's a huge thing. A lot of things that we do and drive us are about our ego.
Yeah.
And so I completely agree. And when you know what you're mapping out here in terms of types, and I love the fact, because I have to tell you, I wasn't quite sure. I thought it was going to be like, I'm fire. I wound up being fire was my primary, but it's like, I'm fire, nothing. And I remember thinking to myself, before I even opened your book, I'm a lot of different things. I'm this, and sometimes I react this way in some situation. There's something like a question about being life of the party. Not always. Sometimes I walk in, I'm a little shy, and I'm not, but I wouldn't consider myself a shy person. But in a certain situation where maybe I feel I don't belong, or there's somebody that I feel intimidated by, I'm very short. That's a big thing in my life. So sometimes if I'm around like tall people and that I don't know, I'm just like, oh, I'm the little person again. And so there's also how you look. So there's so much that goes into it. So I love that you integrated all this together.
Yeah.
But to get the point I was trying to make was, it's really important to know how you're going to react to a stressful situation.
So important, because we get stuck in these patterns of chronic stress and we start thinking things and we think they're true. And really, if we had a clear definition of this is maladaptive thinking, this is you in your stress state, we would then be able to be aware of it and say, okay, wait a minute, let me take a breath, or let me take a walk, or let me give myself some distance from this person or this situation, because I'm not thinking clearly. I'm not in my balanced brain where I'm like, I have access to creativity and problem solving and falling in love even.
Right.
So yeah, my God, if we knew, we just had that.
You have to walk away sometimes and then come back. There's that expression, take a breath. And I get it. It sounds all schmaltzy and stuff, but it really means, take a pause, walk away. Actually, the breath is to just get physically oxygen into your body, because you're like, you've suffocated yourself because you're in this stress.
Yeah.
And you know what? It might not happen 100% of the time, because nothing's 100%. But if you could do it half the time, you've now alleviated half the time of putting all that, stress on your body. I want to ask you, there's so much, and it's so interesting. You've done that. You're born in the right time, and you did this at the right time, because as you were doing this, we were introduced to the internet and social media. And so you grew up like as a child like me. We didn't have any of that. We didn't have our phone.
Right.
Now look what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my internist at the time, and he's since retired. And I remember when the smartphone was coming out, and I remember him saying to me, I am very worried about society, because people are on their phone. No one's paying attention. No one's looking. It's going to rewire our brains. And he was so on the money. And I never forgot the conversation. And he was so on the money. And I find, just speaking for myself, and I know this goes for a lot of other people, again, because I lived a life of no phones, no social media, to now we went to school where it was books and a blackboard, and we wrote notes with our hands, and we weren't distracted with TikTok, and I can't even, I'm so happy I'm old, because
I know.
I don't know what I would have done. I would have, because I already had like an obsessive nature. And so you've got to be worried about society a bit, because we don't stop to read that book anymore. I used to love to read. I used to go on vacation. I used to bring all my hardcover books. My suit weighed more. It wasn't my bathing suit and my sarong. It was my books. And I like that, the beach, and that was like a relaxing vacation. Now, even your book that you sent me weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to read it. I don't take that time. And again, I think reading like this is a lot different than reading like this. And I think it like with your brain. So I'm getting long-winded, but I want to ask you, with all of your work, how do you help people that, because we've all developed ADHD, even if you didn't have it. I mean, I obviously didn't have it. I got through school. People I think are like developing learning disabilities. We're not reading and thinking the way that we were meant to. Like, what kind of work do you do with somebody like that or people like that?
Yeah. Well, first, what you're describing is what I've been seeing. It's this kind of like an epidemic of disconnect. I mean, we're disconnected from ourselves, from our needs, from knowing what our stress states look like. We're disconnected from our relationships, and we started off talking about the whole idea of like being disconnected from your purpose. Like, I mean, and in that state, we have all of this like quick access to information and to each other through our devices, but we're not really connected. It's the people that I work with don't know how to make decisions for themselves, don't know what to do. They're just in these panic states. And so the 5 archetypes is it's an ancient and proven system to understand exactly who you are, and it gives you a framework for what to do when you don't feel right. And so, yeah, there's ADD, there's people there's the other piece of this is who wants a quick fix. We're trained that you can have Xanax and that you can go for a drink and that you can do all these quick things to kind of quiet the pain for a minute, but then people keep doing it, and it's there and it works, and I don't have to face my discomfort, whatever it is. But this is a system for inviting you to kind of be okay in the discomfort for a second and see it as an invitation to get stronger. Because you can be okay in the discomfort, then you can use it as like a clue to understand, like, wow, I'm uncomfortable because my fire needed to be seen in that moment and not seen as the short one, and so fire is going to do that. Fire is going to care more about how you're seen. But what I do is to deal with the ADHD issue. Most of my recommendations are very short, quick activities that are neuroplasticity exercises or exercises that will not produce resistance to the growth. So if your thing was you were addicted to donuts and you just needed to have donuts all the time, if I said, well, listen, Ellen, you just have to stop eating donuts like today, your brain is so used to that behavior, it's an addiction already. You don't want to stop, and your brain is going to say, nah, I'm going to go find someone else to help me. I'm not doing what she says. But if I told you, if we worked on looking at your scores, if I could see from your scores which of your 5 elements actually had the most potential to help you grow and create your own sense of boundaries, I would give you little exercises to do in that area once or twice a day that your brain won't resist because it doesn't realize what I'm doing. And so all of my work is in that kind of functionality, because I'm one of those, I don't want anybody to tell me to stop eating my donuts.
Right. Right. Aside from the sugar being addicting, and then the eating, we can talk for hours about eating, and that's become its own addiction. Food, there is a food addiction. I've seen it, and I've experienced it, and it's whole thing. But we're all in this, and there are some people, God bless them, that can really compartmentalize and get up in the morning and do their thing, and get a lot accomplished and be focused and not get distracted. But I gotta believe that that's becoming less and less. I used to feel like I used to be able to do that at some, many years ago. And now we work differently. We've got different types of jobs. It's not like the traditional, I work in an office and I'm supporting this, or my company makes that. I mean, it's just different across the board. It's just different. Everything's, our office is on our laptop. But I agree with you. And I agree with, we could talk forever, but the obsessive nature of whether it's food, whether it's a person, people get obsessed about a relationship, exercise, whatever it is, anything that you take to the extreme is not good.
Yeah. And our obsession is it feels so good. We can't imagine that there's anything wrong with it, especially from a perspective, the 5 archetypes perspective. Each of the 5 has a different addiction. You want to know what they are?
Yes, I definitely do.
They're so fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Fire people are addicted to pleasure. So because I'm fire too, fire people will do what's fun when we're faced with something that's more monotonous, or like cleaning up the kitchen before bed, or or doing anything like very repetitive. We will likely prefer the thing that's fun. Earth people are addicted to relationships, so they will over please to keep people close and unified.
Wait, hang on a second. Oh yeah, Earth. Okay, right. That was the second. That was my second thing. Yeah. So people please. Yes. Well, I am a comedian. So that and I also my family. Like I want to make. I like to think I'm the straw.
Yeah. Yes.
And I will also, and I'm not patting myself on the back or anything, but I'm related to a lot of hotheads, and without any social sense of awareness. And I'm sorry is not in their vocabulary, and I don't understand why, but it's just not. And so I definitely see myself as that, with at least when it comes to my family. I mean, I'm not one of these like, I want to get the whole block together and have a hug fest. Like, that's not my thing. But certainly people that I love and I care about, I want everybody to like be good and get along.
Yeah, that's fire earth combination. That is totally exactly you. And that's me. I'm the same. You and I have, so fire earth, I'm fire earth. And so we will crave connection. We will crave people loving us. We will crave attention. So we like to entertain. We like eyeballs on us. We don't like being ignored. It doesn't feel good. It's really annoying for fire people. And we have a little bit of a fear of abandonment. Like, that'll come in. Like, we really want to preserve unity and community and relationship. It's very important to us.
Yeah.
So it's this double-edged sword. It's the yin yang. It's why it's Chinese medicine. It's like that stuff can be beautiful and important, and it is the core of what we need to have our purpose, to be fulfilled in this life. But if we over need it and we don't balance it out with the other elements, then it becomes an addiction. And then we do maladaptive behaviors to maintain connections. And so we are the only ones at risk for that. The other types have other shit. So that's shit. But so metal people get addicted to practicing because they need perfection and beauty. They hate making a mistake. So they'll get addicted to practicing. They will over practice. I have some metal clients who are musicians and artists and dancers, and they over practice. So then we have water people get addicted to thinking. And so they will isolate. They'll over isolate in times of stress and really just think.
Oh, I have a...
Yeah. You know one of those?
I have a brother-in-law as a matter of fact, when I read it, I was like, oh, yes. Yeah, no, I know those people. Are those people somewhat also like introverted? And I mean, look, we all march to the beat of our own drum, but they march to the beat of, 2 drums away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's something
totally
about, they can go, like, I appreciate nature. I think it's beautiful. You won't find me in the woods by myself thinking. That is never going to happen.
Yeah, me neither.
My brother-in-law would definitely, I think, has done it. You'll never see me. I'll never do something like that. Like you said, you went to France. So if I had ever done something like that, I would have done what you did. I would have done a bike ride. I would have wanted to see, I would want to be around people. I would have around a flower. We were around water because I do love the ocean.
Yeah.
The beach is more my, and the ocean is more my thing as opposed to the mountain.
Yeah.
But so I get the real thing, right? The real people, everything's a theory. It's like a geometry proof theory. Like everything is, like a geometry problem.
Yeah. And I do a group at City University of New York, and I had students once at this group, and these kids were high school students who were like the tops in their class around New York City schools, and they were kind of being recruited by CUNY. And so I did a group with them, and I split them up by their type. So I had a table of water, a table of fire, everything. And so we were doing these exercises where I give all the kids, they all have to answer your 3 top strengths and your 3 weaknesses. And the water kids all said, they all agreed that one of their biggest weaknesses is social awkwardness. They know. So it's not that they don't even realize it, they know, and it's hard for them. It's like, right. It's very uncomfortable in social situations to know how to engage. Whereas you, as like fire earth, is all about engagement and people. Like relationships are like easy and instinctual for fire earth people, but for water it's the complete opposite.
Right. But I like quality too,
yes.
I know you understand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to have a million friends, and I don't. I would rather have people that I trust is a big thing for me. Loyalty is a big thing for me. And just I'm very cut and dry, and that, like, you just cut through it. And if somebody is annoyed at me, and this doesn't happen as much with friends as it does with family. Just tell me. Just tell me. You can tell me. It's fine. Let's talk about it. I mean, I won't say who, 2 siblings, that, they'll just cut you off. I mean, and I'm not worried about them seeing this because they don't follow my career at all, because they have no interest. But I love them. I mean, I do anything for them. But, it's just like we really, when we're mad, siblings fight. It's very different. I'm just like, tell me. Don't not call me or talk to me, or don't hang up on me. That's like, to me, that is to me the rudest thing you can do to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Especially somebody you know what I mean? I'm not talking about, some telemarketer, but I mean like somebody. Yeah. I think that's like the rudest thing you could do to somebody.
Yeah.
So here's my
that's a very
fire coming.
Yes, it's true. It's a fire thing. Fire people, they really can't stand the ignoring or being cut off. And those are your 2 challenges. That's water and metal. Water and metal are the 2 challengers for fire. And that's like, we can't deal with that. And they're all about that. They're all about like being alone, cutting off, like going back and retreat and quiet. And that for them, that's just normal. And for us, that's like, what are you doing? Yeah, we can't handle it.
Right. Now, what about wood, which was like my
wood's addiction? Yeah.
My 4th one.
Yeah. So wood is addicted to winning. Wood people, their biggest fears revolve around confinement. So they will play to win. They don't joke around when it comes to games. And you probably have, like, when you were a kid, had some kids that like they just had to win, and they might even cheat to win, just because they had to win. They'll cut the corners when you're playing kickball. They won't touch the bases.
They're people. They're very. I say they're very competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am not a sports competitive person, and I used to be a little bit more into sports. I'm not just like watching it. I'm talking about, I watch like big games and stuff, but I don't know. It's just sort of like lost its interest in me. And sometimes players, I just don't like what they say. And it's just like, some of the behavior, it's sort of like some of it's ruined it. Honestly, it's because they've all gotten way too much airtime, and it's just been like too much, but anyway, not to get off topic, but I don't like, I like things that are like, I like working out, and I'm there. I'm in a class. I love being in a group class. That's like one of the things I'm missing so much. We're doing Zoom. We're doing like Zoom
I
at
know.
home, but I love doing that. But I'm competing with myself. How far can I, jump around, and how far can I, how much weight can I use, and it's all about me. It's not. We're not doing some. I don't anything like, oh, let's race, let's this. Who can do the fastest? It's like, okay, I'll do it because I just, don't want to be polite. I want to be polite, but that's not my thing.
Yeah.
I like that as a kid. I didn't really play sports as a kid. I mean, I just didn't like all that.
Yeah. And what people are motivated by competition. They will love, like if you were working in a company and they put out there like, hey, we're going to compete for who can take the most steps this month, or some sort of wellness competition, they will be the first in line. Right. Earth people, not so much. Fire just wants it to be fun. Earth would rather that we all do something together. They don't need to win. They just want it to be unified and that we're all in it. It's like a team effort. So we all have very different motivations for why we sleep, eat, move, play, breathe, engage in relationships, break up, all of this stuff. And it's all predictable. And when you understand it, you can predict exactly what's going to happen for you in a relationship. You can map out. When I have people's scores, I map their love relationships, which is really fun. And so once you know this stuff, you know exactly what you need. You know what kind of exercise to go for, and you know who's going to push your buttons and whose buttons you're going to push, and how to be empathetic to them so that there's less stress and strain when you communicate, and you get what you need and they get what they need.
Let me ask you, you said everything's like one-stop shopping. Do you do anything on a nutritional level? I mean, vitamins, and I mean, is there things that you do of that nature? Do you do the pressure points or, anything like that, the chakra?
Right. Well, I'm an Ayurvedic nutritionist, so I do help people understand how to eat, and some also other lifestyle well-being things like breath work, pranayama, yoga, aromatherapy, some pressure points, some mantras, some mudras. I do vibroacoustic sound therapy, and I customize the frequencies based on people's scores, and also based on what else they have going on, what the context of their challenge is. And so it's pretty well-rounded experience. We have about 15 other practitioners in the space. So if someone needs something different from what I offer, then, we coordinate on cases too.
So if someone were to contact you, and so what would you do first? You would just evaluate them. They come in and they call you up and they're like, listen, I'm stressed. My life's a mess and drinking too much. I can't. I know I got to get my act together. I don't feel good. I'm depressed. I mean, how many people?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And you would talk to them and kind of give them an assessment. Obviously, you have filled out a questionnaire of some sort. Then you have them come in and you talk to them, and then you help guide them and find out like what exactly they're looking to do, and how you can help them. And if there's something that they need specifically, like acupuncture, you would send them to one of your colleagues.
Yeah. Everyone starts with the Five Elements assessment, the Five Archetypes assessment, because once I have their scores and the context of their current challenge, it's all laid out. There's a clear framework for me to know exactly what a person needs. And so we'll sit down first, and I'll get to hear firsthand what's going on, because that adds another layer of understanding and clarity around where is this person along the spectrum of healing. And if they're in a place where they're ready to take a little bit of responsibility and control over their own growth, that's perfect for me. If they're not yet, they need more either manual therapy or perhaps psychotherapy, something that's getting them ready and prepared to take more action on their own. And so if they're in that, earlier stage, I will refer them out. But if they're in a position to really take action on their own behalf and to learn new skills, then that's kind of my bailiwick. That's my sweet spot.
Everything that you do, it's work. It's a lot of work on the person, the patient that's coming to you. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I understand, sometimes when people don't have the resources, but if you do, it's unfortunate that everybody kind of looks for the quick fix. And when we tend to live in a society where it's like, okay, take this pill, this will calm you down. I am not putting anybody down. I myself personally have never taken an antidepressant or anything. And I'm just putting that out there because I hate medicine. Like, unless I have to take it, I won't. I don't feel comfortable. I'm a little person. I don't think when they make prescription medicine that they test it on people like me. They test it on a 250-pound man. But listen, if the doctor said, listen, you're going to die if you don't, I'm going to do what I have to do, right? You break your leg, you're going to go get a cast. I mean, I get it. I get it. And not to put down any of the health professionals that are doing amazing work. But I was always, when I've been at very low points in my life, I just never, that was never my go-to. And it pains me when people that I know and have known that was what they went to go do. And then, again, it's not like you take it and it goes away. First, you have to go through a whole process of sort of like adjusting to see what is the right level for you. And then I don't like this idea that you could never get off of some of this stuff for the rest of your life. And then nobody talks about what it does to your liver and everything else. So again, I'm not putting anybody down. It's just that I wish we had I wish holistic medicine and conventional medicine would come together a lot more. And because insurance, for the most part, doesn't cover holistic, but it'll cover, it'll cover the $300 prescription, but it won't cover the maybe, the $60 acupuncture treatment. So they'll, so sure, take the narcotic, the class 2 narcotic, that's okay, but don't try to maybe do something like this, like you said, like acupuncture, is sad. We're still behind in that. Yeah. And we're lucky, living in New York or LA or San Francisco. And although I think it's happening in other, like what you consider like smaller cities as well. It's becoming more and more opened up in terms of, people are becoming more open in terms of trying to look at alternative methods. It's interesting. I also believe in traditional Chinese medicine as well. I think there's just so much out there that's so good. Yeah. And don't look at it. I don't want people to look at it as the China that we know now, and, that are making prescription drugs and, whatever else is going on. This is way before all of that. When things were different and I think better for them. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, when this Corona thing came about, I felt like, and I'll say God, and I do believe in God, and I'm Greek Orthodox, and I go to church, and I pray, and I went to the Holy Land last year, and it was fascinating, and I love my faith, and I love my culture, but I get it, but I understand, and sometimes even in my own religion that I love, sometimes things are very black and white, and it's like, well, okay, but we need to be flexible. And I do read my horoscope, and I do meditate, and I do pray. It's like I do all that stuff. But when I first heard, when this first sort of like, I really sort of stuck, like, oh wow, this is something. And then then it was like, don't go out. I really felt like it was, like I said, God. I'll use God's way of saying, all right, that's it. This is not the plan, okay? Yeah. This is not what I'm mapped out for you. Everybody, time out, go to your room. Because that's basically what's happened, is we've gone to our room, okay?
Yeah, totally.
And so I feel like, till we kind of learn to sort of calm it down a little bit. And when I mean calm it down, I mean like a lot of the violent stuff that goes on to this day that I can't even, like, I can't believe. In some ways we haven't evolved. In some ways we haven't. So I want to just get your perspective too. Like, when this happened, did you have any feeling like that? I mean, that this was this came from like a bigger place than just let's just say, for argument's sake, a lab, in one place.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It goes back to the idea of disconnect. We were look at the environment. How disconnected are we from our freaking planet that we're polluting her? Like, right? I mean, you see the videos of all the plastics in the oceans and the drinking water, and we don't think about, like, well, when we toss a thing of garbage, it's where does it go?
Right.
And and we're disconnected from relationships, and that we can get addicted to our thing, like to winning or pleasure or whatever it is, and not be empathetic and compassionate to our fellow man and woman. And so you're right. So there's violence, because there's victimhood and blame and all these things that happen when we're not connected to each other with our hearts. And so I think we've been, I feel like this is God, this is divine. This is like, you guys, I have really effed up, and it's time to, like, sit in the corner.
Going. It's like, there's not, even when they're going to start to let us out of our room a little bit, it's still not going to be the same for me. I think it's going to be like this forever. No, but right. I think it's going to be like this for a while.
Yeah.
And you know what? I really too, I feel, listen, you don't have to be everybody's best friend. You don't have to invite your neighbor for coffee if you don't want to. That's fine.
Right.
Cool. Just be a good human being. That's it.
Right.
As far as the earth and the planet, I blaming, but I think the presentation starts to be bad because it becomes political. It's, this one thinks it's this, it's that. And then people start to, try to monetize on it. And I'm all for making money. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like, why don't you just talk about the basics, and then we try to make who's the enemy and who's not. Look, we all live here. Would you throw garbage in your living room and sit there and,
right.
If you, I know there's the episode of Hoarders, but like, separate and apart from like that, which is an issue, which is a TV show that people are watching. But I'm saying,
right.
Do that. You want to respect, right? You respect your clothing, it's just the same thing, and that's it. And I think nobody can talk to each other about it. It's, well, you want this and you want that, and it's because you want money for this, and you want me to live this way, and it's my rights, and it's like, no, and it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
Let's get to the basics. There's pollution. We could just forget politics. Oh, don't even think about who's what for who. That's where it goes wrong. Don't.
Yeah.
Do you want to breathe that air? There's metal. Is that good for us? I don't think that's good.
Right.
Do you think that's good for you? I mean, all these sicknesses that go on and these illnesses, and yes, nobody lives forever, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, and we'll wrap it up. You could say I could talk to you forever. It's very alarming that I find people whose parents, there would be like our parents that, 70s, 80s, that, that generation of people, the Alzheimer's and the dementia that is going, every time I turn around, someone's telling me, how's your mom? Yeah, but she's starting to have dementia. Is that a coincidence that this is happening to that generation?
I know.
But that's scary.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a lot, there's a lot to this, and we got to live, and it's up to us. Listen, we're all responsible for our own bodies and what we put in our own mouths. You can't have the government regulate what your dinner is going to be, and what you got to take responsibility and just do it.
Yeah.
And now there is a lot of information. It's not the 40s anymore, where people are smoking.
Yeah. Right.
Why are you smoking? Why are you smoking? Why are you vaping? Why? I understand. I understand the stress part of it, but that's not the solution. But you've been a delight. So social media, are you on social media, and where can we find you? Where can we buy your book? We've got time to read it. We've got plenty of time to read it. And so go to your office. You're on 36th Street,
26 East 36th Street, but right now we're closed for COVID. Yes. I don't know about the reopening process, but I'm doing all my sessions online. So thankfully, like all the counseling stuff is easy to do, on Zoom. And my website is tournesolwellness.com, and I'll spell it because I have to. It's TOURNESOL wellness. And my social media, you can find me, the book at fivearchetypes.com. And Instagram is the Five Archetypes, and Carrie.Davidson and Tournesol Wellness, and same with Facebook. So.
That's great. I'm following you on Instagram.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm following you. All right, we're gonna have to have coffee or something. Like we're gonna have to make.
I know. I can't wait for a coffee shop and I'm a human.
Our poor little city. We've taken some walks, my husband and I, and listen, some of them are not coming back. And some will, which we just try to support, and just I've been saying this. I've been saying it when I've been recording my shows and stuff. Just everybody, just put some good energy out there. Whatever that whatever it is, whatever your process is, just try to put good things out there, and we'll get through this, and we will. And like I said, be a little kinder to each other. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
It's okay. All right, I'm so happy we met. Thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you.
I follow Carrie Davidson, and you got all the information, the Five Archetypes, fantastic book. I highly recommend it. Find out who you are. Maybe you're a fire. I kind of knew I was going to be a fire too for some reason. I don't know why. All right, I'm going to stop the video, but hang on, and you and I will talk for a moment. Our first sponsor is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you post the right wording on social media for your business. They can help you analyze the demographics of your business. They're also experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, hollywoodgreeks.com, for all of your Greek entertainment needs, and those will be coming soon. Also, HellenicFestivals.org to find out where there is a Greek festival near you. Now, maybe not this summer, but absolutely in September. Listen, nothing's going to stop the Greeks but from having their festival. Trust me on this. Also, our other sponsor, Select Flex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? Well, it's also called an insert, and you put it in your shoe. It helps you with foot support, ankle, your knees, back, your entire alignment. And let me tell you what's different about these orthotics versus other ones that you find over the counter. There is an adjustability in the arch, and you could make the arch firm, extra firm, or extra firm, depending on what your needs are. I use these for all of my workouts or for walking. I never leave home without these in my sneakers, my Uggs, my boots. I'm telling you right now, folks, just try them. And let me tell you something else too. There's a 25% discount for Kara's Comedy Corner listeners. So go to their website, selectflex.com, SELECTFLEX.com. Type in the code FAMILY25, because you're like my family, FAMILY 25, and you're going to get a 25% discount. They have a video on the website. You can see how these work. I'm telling you, these are fantastic and so much cheaper than buying custom. So try these out, selectflex.com.